Welcome. My name is Lisa Ball. I am an instructional coach here at BOCES. Thank you for watching this webinar on bullying and the Dignity for All Students Act. I'll be referring to this as DASA throughout the presentation. Let's begin. The Dignity Act states that no student shall be subjected to harassment or bullying by employees or students on school property or at a school function, nor shall any student be subjected to discrimination based on a person's actual or perceived race, color, weight, national origin, ethnic group, religion, religious practice, disability, sexual orientation, gender, or sex. Note that the Dignity Act protects students from harassment or bullying by students or employees. The purpose of DASA is to provide students with a safe and supportive environment, free from discrimination, intimidation, taunting, harassment, and bullying on school property, a school bus, or at a school function. The goal is to create an environment in which students can learn and in which teachers can educate. As we stated in the previous slide, DASA seeks to provide students with an environment free from harassment, bullying, and discrimination, sometimes referred to as HBD. We need to set some definitions for these terms so that we can identify true bullying. If we don't, everything becomes bullying, and therefore nothing is bullying. Harassment is the creation of a hostile environment by conduct or verbal threats, intimidation, or abuse. In kids, harassment looks a lot like bullying, and so the terms are often used interchangeably. You can see the definition of bullying on your screen. This definition is from Dan Olveus, a leading world authority on bullying and bullying prevention. He's conducted research in this field for over 20 years. Bullying is unwanted, aggressive behavior that generally involves three characteristics, often referred to as the double IR. The first hallmark is an imbalance of power. The individual with less power is unable to make the bullying stop. Students who bully others use their power, such as physical strength or popularity, to control or harm others. If there is no imbalance of power, it's not bullying. It's an argument or fight. Second is intentional. With bullying, there is an intent to cause harm. The action is deliberate. The final characteristic is repetition. The act happens more than once or has the potential to be repeated. The goal of DASA is to educate and prevent the reoccurrence. Bottom line, bullying is about power. Here we can see how identifying these characteristics can help us determine if an action is in fact bullying. The columns show three possible types of student interactions: rough play, fighting, and bullying. The rows then describe how characteristics change in each type of interaction. The first row looks at repetition. In rough play, the behavior is repeated. In fighting, it is typically not repeated. In bullying, you can see behavior is repeated. The second row shows the role of power. Power is not an issue in either rough play or fighting. In bullying, power is not equal. Remember, bullying is about an imbalance of power. The third row looks at intent. In rough play, the intent is not about hurting. In fighting, the intent is to hurt each other. And in bullying, the person who is bullying is trying to hurt or humiliate the other. The final row looks at the effect. In rough play, the effect of the individuals is friendly. In fighting, it is negative. And in bullying, the effect is different for each of the individuals involved. Let's look now at the different types of bullying. Verbal. This is harm to one's self-esteem. It can be threats, insults, name-calling, teasing, or gossip. Social bullying is defined as harm to one's group acceptance. This could be exclusion, rumors, gossip, public humiliation, and manipulation of friendships. It is interesting to note that social bullying activates the same part of the brain that responds to physical pain. Physical bullying is harm to one's body or belongings. Some examples are pushing, hitting, tripping. Remember, it can be harm to one's belongings as well, so damage to a locker or backpack falls under physical bullying. Cyberbullying is harassment or bullying which occurs through any form of electronic communication. This includes, but is not limited to, email, instant messaging, blogs, chat rooms, gaming systems, tweeting, etc. We can use this chart to determine whether an act is considered to be a material incident under DASA. First, we look to see if the HVD created a hostile environment. A hostile environment is one which interferes with a student's educational performance, opportunities, or benefits. This is not limited to the classroom, but includes activities such as band and chorus, the lunchroom or cafeteria, the playground, the bus, and the athletic field, among others. A hostile environment can also be one in which a student's mental, emotional, and/or physical well-being is affected. There is new evidence showing a connection between chronic bullying and things such as depression, sleeplessness, headaches, and stomach aches. A hostile environment could also be one in which a student is actually hurt or there is a threat of injury. We also look at whether the offender was a student or an employee. Remember, DASA protects students from bullying by either students or employees. Then we look at whether the act occurred on school grounds, at a school function off school grounds, such as a prom, a field trip, or an athletic event, or if the event occurred off school grounds but created a risk of disruption within the school environment. The addition of this last part was prompted by the prevalence of social media, but could also be the result of things such as off-school parties or fights. This part gives schools the right and the responsibility to intervene. Finally, we look at whether the act involved one of the 11 named classes: race, color, weight, national origin, ethnic group, religion, religious practice, disability, sexual orientation, gender, or sex, or whether it involved other. The law does not limit bullying to these listed 11 biases. Finally, let's define discrimination. Discrimination includes the denial of equal treatment, admission, and/or access to program facilities and services based on those 11 protected areas I listed in the previous slide. Discrimination is not specifically defined in the Dignity Act. As a reminder, bullying under DASA does include cyberbullying. There are several important distinctions between cyberbullying and other forms of bullying. One is that it can be done 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The second is that it can be shared to a very wide audience very quickly. And finally, with cyberbullying, there is the perception of anonymity. There have been some recent regulatory changes to DASA, including amendments to the Code of Conduct and to instruction in civility, citizenship, and character education. In addition, there are new regulations regarding school employee training and in reporting regulations. Let's look at each of these in more depth. All schools must adopt and enforce a Code of Conduct, which includes a Bill of Rights and responsibilities for students. The Code of Conduct should focus on positive student behavior and a safe and supportive school climate. The focus of DASA is not on discipline, but rather on creating a positive and supportive school environment. The Code of Conduct includes an age-appropriate summary, which must be provided to all students at a school assembly at the beginning of each year, and a summary must be mailed to parents and guardians and be provided to all teachers. Students should receive instruction in citizenship, civility, and character education, which should include the concepts of tolerance, respect, and dignity. The intent is that these basic themes be integrated throughout the school day and across various subject areas. DASA requires that there be at least one staff member at each school who is designated as the Dignity Act coordinator. The specific role of this person is left up to the school, but the person must be thoroughly trained in addressing problems of bullying and harassment. Under DASA, staff training should include responses to bullying that are balanced and age-appropriate and which follow a progressive model, taking into account the nature and severity of the behavior, the developmental age of the student, and the student's history of bullying behaviors. Training should also include information on social patterns of HBD. Recent trends show that students with disabilities, LGBTQ students, and students of immigrant status tend to be bullied more often than other students. Training should also include strategies for identification and mitigation of HBD and for addressing problems of exclusion, bias, and aggression. One of the responsibilities of the DASA coordinator is the annual reporting of material incidents to the State Education Department. These reports include the what. What type was the type of bias? Was it one of those 11 protected areas or other? The who, whether the incident resulted from student or employee conduct. The how, whether the incident involved physical conduct or another form of bullying, social, verbal, or cyber. And finally, the where. Did the incident occur on school grounds, at a school function, off grounds, or off school grounds but created a risk of disruption within the school environment? The report should include incidents that result from investigation of written or oral complaints or that were observed by an employee, regardless of whether a complaint is made. DASA includes whistleblower protection, a provision that prohibits retaliation against any individual who in good faith reports or assists in the investigation of HBD. Once a report has been made, it falls to the superintendent, principal, or designee to ensure that an investigation is done thoroughly and promptly. Once an incident has been determined to be a material incident, a school must take prompt action that is reasonably calculated to end the behavior, eliminate the hostile environment and create a more positive one, prevent recurrence of the behavior, and ensure the safety of the targeted student. In addition, when it is believed that any HBD constitutes criminal conduct, the school must promptly notify local law enforcement agencies. The amended Dignity Act includes a two-step provision for reporting HBD. If you see or hear of something, you must orally report this no later than one school day. Notice this is a school day. If you witness something on a Friday afternoon, you have until Monday afternoon to make your report. Then you must submit a written report no later than 2 school days after the oral report. Again, this is school days. So with our previous example, if you witness something Friday afternoon, you have until Monday afternoon to make your oral report, and then until Wednesday afternoon to make your written report. The amended Dignity Act also includes changes to certification requirements. Anyone applying for a license or certificate after December 31st, 2013 must complete the 6-hour DASA training. This includes individuals getting an extension or applying for a new certificate. So how does this affect you? Well, you are expected to model appropriate behavior. You are required to intervene when you witness or receive a report of bullying. And you are required to document bullying incidents with a 2-step process we previously discussed. Can you promise a bullied student that you will keep the incident confidential? No. This creates the risk of legal liability for you and/or the school. Can you resolve an incident and not report it? Again, no. This creates a risk of legal liability for you and the school. So what doesn't work when intervening in incidents of HBD? Well, telling targeted students to ignore the bullying or the person doing the bullying. Telling the target student to work it out with the perpetrator. Trying to sort out facts on the spot, forcing bystanders to say publicly what they saw, and questioning those involved in front of others also don't work. Remember that bullying is about an imbalance of power. It is not a conflict. So bringing the targeted and bullying students together for conflict resolution or mediation does not work. And finally, asking for an apology on the spot does not work. But what does work? Well, intervene immediately. If necessary, get help. Separate the children involved, but don't send anyone away. First, make sure everyone is safe and meet any medical or mental health needs. Remember to stay calm. Reassure the students involved, including any bystanders. Make sure that you model respectful behavior and let the perpetrators know that this is not how we treat each other at our school and that someone will be following up with them. Remember to report the incident and to document what you saw. DASA is really about ensuring that all students are provided a safe and supportive environment in which they can learn throughout their educational careers. If you have any further questions, please direct them to your supervisor. Thank you for watching.